We're talking today with Harry Schweitzer of Grand Haven, Michigan, and the interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Okay, start us off with some background on yourself, and to begin with, where and when were you born?
What do you want me to say?
You say where and when you were born.
February 20th, 1925,
Okay, and where were you born?
Spring Lake.
Okay, so Spring Lake, Michigan. And what was your family doing for a living when you were a kid?
Farmer.
Okay. And what kinds of things did they grow?
Berry, blackberries, red raspberries.
Okay.
That's basically what they raised on the farm.
All right. Now, were they able to keep the farm during the Depression?
Yeah, that's when I was on the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people lost their land then or had to rent it back, but you still owned your land? Okay. And how many kids were in your family?
2 girls and 2 boys, me and my brother and my 2 sisters.
Okay. And were you the older brother or the younger
I'm
one?
the baby of the family.
Okay. All right. Now, before World War II started, before Pearl Harbor, were you paying much attention to what was going on in the world?
Nah,
Okay. So the war in Europe and things like that.
I wasn't interested in nothing.
Okay.
Just chasing.
All right. You're
Having a
being,
good time.
yeah, you're being a teenage boy. Yeah. Okay. Do you remember how you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, I was working in, the boss came in and he says that the Japs invaded Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
He was listening to the radio
Okay.
while working. He came out and says, Japan invaded Pearl Harbor.
Okay. Now, what kind of work were you doing?
He was working in the cement block plant.
Okay. Now, so was that, now the Pearl Harbor happened on a Sunday, so was that just when you went to work on Monday, or? Yeah. Okay. And then, what was your reaction to that when you found out we were at war?
I don't know. I don't really remember much about that. It was just kind of, I don't know, just kind of changed my life.
Okay. Well, how did it change your life?
Well, I wanted to go kill some Jats.
Okay. Well, that's a reaction. All right. And so, what did you do about that?
Joined the army.
Okay. So, when did you join the Army?
Oh boy. I think it was February 9th of 42.
42. So basically you hear about Pearl Harbor and pretty much as soon as you can, you enlist. Now, the law said that you couldn't enlist until you were 17. And you weren't quite 17 yet. Okay. So how did you get in?
Lied my age.
Okay. And did your parents sign for you?
No,
You did till you told them you were 18?
they didn't. My mother wasn't alive,
Okay.
and my dad didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't care what I did.
Yeah. Well, I think the government, though, needed some, if you were not, they would let you in at 17.
Pardon me?
If you were 17, they'd let you in if a parent signed for you.
Yeah, there was nobody signed for me.
But if you told them,
I lied enough to get in without that.
okay. So if you tell them you're 18, then they take you. Anyway, so you get in. All right. Now, once you enlist, where do you report to?
I went to Custer, Fort Custer.
Okay, so Fort Custer and Battle Creek.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now,
Then I went from there to Chicago. That camp there.
well, there's Fort Sheridan that's north of Chicago, and there's Camp Grant that's west of it.
Was it Camp Grant?
A lot of guys went to Camp Grant. I think it says near Rockford.
I think that's where it was.
Okay.
Rockford.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, why did you choose the Army?
Well, we tried to get into the Marines, but I couldn't pass it. I was colorblind.
Okay.
So I thought, well, we'll get somewhere.
All right. But the Army took you. Okay. Now, when you went to Camp Grant, was that for processing?
That was basic training.
Okay. You did your basic training there? Now, so what did basic training consist of then?
Just basic hiking and stuff like that.
Did they teach you to follow orders?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And so how did they teach you discipline?
That's a good one. I don't really remember how they did. He just did what they said or he was in trouble.
Okay. All right. Now, and then how easy or hard was it for you to adjust to that?
Wasn't hard at all.
Okay. So you grown up, you knew how to
I
follow
didn't have
orders.
I didn't have no trouble because I was kind of left alone as a kid when I was at that time because my mother had just died, and I was pretty much alone.
Okay. Well, some guys who were loners don't like to do what other people tell them to do.
Well, you did that or you got in trouble.
Okay. So you learned that. So you basically did what they told you. And then did you get any weapons training there? Did you learn to shoot and that kind of thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
I know how to do that anyway, but
All right. And about how long do you think you spent at Camp Grant?
I think it was 13 weeks.
Okay. All right. And once you finished that, what did you do next?
Well, they shipped us out to Camp Robles, California,
Okay. And
and that was a big hospital,
okay.
and I'd done everything there. Went from taking care of people who were driving the ambulance and a little bit of everything.
Okay. Now, so what was your job description?
I don't think he had one.
Well, were you a medical corpsman or?
Well, and I ended up on my discharge as a surgical medical technician.
Okay. But when you went to Camp Roberts, did they give you any more training at Camp Roberts?
No,
Okay. So that's your duty station now.
I did there. I drove ambulance. I worked in a hospital. Done just about anything they wanted. Just kind of a utility person. That's what most of them were.
Okay. How big was the hospital, do you think?
How big?
Yeah.
It was a big hospital.
Okay.
In fact, I think it's still open.
Okay. And what part of California was that in, or what town were you near?
The town, San Miguel, California, was the biggest town. Weighs about probably, well, we're about halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles.
Okay. All right. Is that kind of Central Valley or
I don't know.
along the coast?
The only towns I can remember is Paso, Robles, San Miguel. And they were two little. San Miguel was about the size of Newark. Paso Robles was probably about the size of Grand Haven.
Okay. But these were okay. Anyway, so that people can look up. All right. So, I guess. So can you kind of describe a little bit more of the different, or list the things you see? You drove ambulances.
I drove ambulance. That's about all I did really. Worked in the wards a little bit. Didn't do much of anything. I mean, just knocked around is all.
Okay. So what would a typical day be like there?
What was a typical day?
Yeah.
You get up in the morning, go by the motor pool, sit and smoke cigarettes and shoot the breeze until you get a call.
Okay. All right. So, did an Army hospital have much business at that point?
Oh yeah.
Well, were you getting casualties coming in from overseas?
No.
Or these are just guys who got sick or hurt there?
That was just took care of the ones that was there. That was a big Camp Robbins is a big camp, training camp.
Yeah, because they were
Army training camp.
okay. So you're really just taking care of the personnel that are there at the base at that time.
Really, yeah.
Okay. Now, if you went off the base and you went into San Miguel or Paso Robles, what was there to do?
What was there to do?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay.
Drink beer?
Did they have a movie theater?
No. Paso Robles might have.
Okay. Well, did they show movies on the base? Did they show movies on the base?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had stuff for you to do there.
Yeah, I think they were 10 cents to go to the movie.
Okay. All right. And then about how long do you think, did you stay at Camp Roberts until you went overseas, or did they move you somewhere else?
No, I was all over California.
Okay.
I went from Camp Roberts to the desert, to the Mojave Desert. And from Mojave, I went out to the farthest out in the desert I got was Needles, California.
Okay. All right. And what were you doing there?
same thing, set up a field hospital.
Okay. All right. And then, so you were there, so you were Needles. Where else were you?
From there, I went to Paso,
Oh, there's Pasadena.
I can't think of the name of it now. Pomona, California.
Okay, Pomona. Okay.
It was at the Army base at the fairgrounds, and we had a little medical unit there, and used to give shots and that there to the troops that was there.
Okay. Now,
And, I was there for quite a while.
okay. So as you're going around to these different places, when you go to Needles and then Pomona, were you going with a group of people all together?
The biggest group was probably about 3 or 4 people.
Okay. So you're really just being moved around kind of individually and plugged in where they need you.
Well, I don't know if they've done that. They just, where they didn't want you, I guess they put you somewhere else.
Did you get in trouble in any of these places? Okay, so it wasn't like they were kicking you out. Okay.
No.
Yeah, because it could have been a bar fight. You don't know. All right. So they move you. So you're in Pomona. Did Pomona have anything more interesting to do than Paso Robles, or?
No, I had a girlfriend there.
Okay. But was that still a pretty small town at that point?
It was probably about like, well, it wasn't quite a big, about the size of Holland, I guess.
Okay. All right. Now, were you wondering at all if you were ever going to go overseas, or did you just mind your own business?
No, I wanted to, but they wouldn't take you. They didn't want you. Wasn't ready for us yet.
Okay.
And I forget when it was we went overseas. Went from there, from Pomona to, I think it was Newark, New Jersey.
Okay.
And then from Newark, New Jersey, Christmas Eve, they put us on a boat and
Okay.
sent us over to England.
Now, when they're moving you around to different places, when they send you from Illinois to California and California to New Jersey, how do they do that?
By train.
Okay. And do you remember anything about those train rides?
Up to what?
About the train rides? What were those like?
Slow. Slow. It took 2 days and 3 nights to come from California to Grand Haven.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a job getting on it. Standing room only.
Okay. All right. Would people take turns sitting down, or?
Well, yeah, they stood up most of the time.
Okay.
If you got a seat, you didn't get up any.
That's right, because I guess that would go away. All right. Now,
I was only home once. I had a 7-week leave once in the 4 years I was in.
Mm-hmm. And was that in the middle of your time in California? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was right. Practically, it was probably the first beginning of when I was in. I was only in maybe 2 months, and I got a 7-day leave to come home
Okay.
to Grand Haven.
Okay. And
7 days to come home and back.
All right. So you spent a lot of that time on trains.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I think I only had about 2 or 3 days home.
Okay. So now at the end of 1943, they ship you off to New Jersey, and then they send you to England?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you remember about the voyage from the United States to England?
From when I was out there in Newark, New Jersey,
Yeah.
we weren't there very long. We
Right.
were only there about a week.
Okay.
Then they stuck us on. That was right before Christmas.
Right.
They
And
loaded us on Christmas Eve to send us to England.
okay. And what kind of ship were you on?
I went overseas on an English ship
Okay.
with rotten eggs.
It's a bad food.
Oh, they were terrible.
All right.
The whole,
Now,
everybody on the ship was seasick.
Mhm.
Boy, that was a mess.
Okay. Now, was this like a converted ocean liner, or was this just a transport ship?
It was a troop ship. It was a pretty good sized boat,
Okay.
but it was an English ship.
Mm-hmm. And
I
did,
remember-
did you sail in a convoy or by yourself?
No, we went over a convoy.
Okay.
They sunk one of the ships in the convoy. German did.
Okay. So there are still U-boats out there to watch out for. And what was the weather like on the way over?
Going over was good.
Okay.
Coming home wasn't so good.
Okay. So even though the weather was good, that everybody was getting, now they got sick from the food or just from being on a boat?
Well, he got sick from the waves.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They're really not breaking waves. They're all them big rollers, you know, great,
Yeah.
I mean huge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go up about 10, 15 foot and then day after day, well, it makes you sick.
All right. Now, did you get sick yourself?
No, never got seasick.
Okay. And
Well, I shouldn't say I almost did because of everybody's throwing up all over the place.
Mhm.
Yeah.
that can be very suggestive. Now, did you do anything to prevent getting seasick, or did you just get lucky?
We sucked on not lemons, them little green jellies, limes.
Okay.
You suck on them, that helped a little bit.
All right. Okay. So you're with the convoy. About how long do you think that trip took?
It took 3 days and 4 nights.
Okay. So that would be a fast convoy. And if that's pretty quick to get across the Atlantic on a ship at that point. But okay. And then, do you remember where you landed in Britain?
Liverpool.
Okay. And then, what happens once you arrive at Liverpool?
Well, they put me I remember the name of the town, some little town about the size of Ferrisburg, and they had some Quonset huts there where we stayed in.
Okay. All right. So basically, it's an American Army base now.
No, I don't think it is.
Oh.
It wasn't really a base, it was just, part of it was scattered here and some over here, and they're scattered all over that town, wherever they could find housing.
Okay. Now, when you went over, did you go over with a unit, or were you really just individual at that point?
We went over, there was about, well, I don't know, I think at that time it was the whole hospital unit that
Okay.
went over, 97th Evac Hospital.
All right. I'm just going to make a note of that.
I may have some of this mixed up a little bit,
Oh.
because it's hard to remember back then.
All right. Okay. So did you set up your hospital there, or were you just waiting to go somewhere
Waited
else?
to go overseas, just waited for the invasion.
Okay. So if you arrived there at the beginning of 1944, basically, the Normandy invasion is going to be in June. So you've got several months in England. Okay. So how did you stay at that base until you shipped out?
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you spend your time?
Well, you just, I don't know, whatever they wanted you to do, like, you didn't just spend your time much of anything.
Okay.
Just hang around doing nothing, really.
Okay. And would they let people go into the village and go to the pub, or?
Yeah. Yeah. That's about all there was to do. And then have fish and chips.
Right. Okay. And then, did you get a chance to go anywhere else in England, or did you just?
Well, you could get a leave and go like to London and around a little bit.
Okay. And did you do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you get to London?
Yeah.
Okay. And what was that like?
Like any other town, only a little. England is one of the shit towns as far as I'm concerned.
What was it when you went to London? Did you see a lot of bomb damage and that kind of thing?
I don't know. It's not much different than it is anywhere. It's a town is a town. I mean, like the cars are different and stuff like that. But actually, people are basically the same.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got their little niches to do, and that's it.
Okay. And when you went to London, what did you do? Just look around?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, while you were in London, were there any German missile attacks or bombing raids, or was it quiet?
No, you just roamed around, done what you wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
or what you wanted to do either.
Okay. But because there were periods when the Germans were still, launching
Oh, yeah.
buzz bombs at London and that kind of thing. But did you notice any of that, or was it quiet while you were there?
Well, they never bombed when I was there, because we was
Okay.
only there a day, and
Right.
and but you could see where they had bombed it.
Okay. Now, as you got closer to D-Day, did things change at all, or did you do things to prepare for the invasion?
Well, they had, but when before we got there, why they'd send their buzz bombs and that over, you know, the E2s and that, the Germans over. But they would land anywhere, you know. They were fueled, and when they run out of gas, well, they dropped wherever they run out of fuel.
Right. But I'm asking about your own unit, because you're in England and you're going to go over to Normandy. Do you do anything to prepare for the invasion? Does your daily routine change as you get closer to D-Day?
Well, they had us waterproof the trucks and all that stuff. You know, Corpsman or whatever was on the spark plugs and the carburetor and everywhere where water is in. I think we got to get them vehicles ready to go in the invasion.
Okay. And then when did you go to Normandy?
When?
Yeah.
I made the second invasion, the second wave of troops.
On D-Day?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about kind of D-Day then. I mean, did you move from your base to a staging area before you went over?
Well, that staging area is where we fixed the trucks. And
Right.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. That was only about maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Now, during that period where you're in the staging area, were you confined to the base?
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was no place to go.
Yeah. Well, they didn't want anybody to know we were going to invade either. Okay. And then, what did they tell you about what you were going to be doing? Did you get any information about the invasion before you?
No, they just told you when they were ready to go, they said, "Oh, let's go." And that's about it.
Okay. But did you have any instructions for what you were supposed to do when you landed? Or you're just going to follow orders?
Dig a hole and crawl in it.
Okay.
If you could, if you made it.
All right. Now, what kind of ship did they load you on for the invasion?
It was what they call a landing craft.
Okay.
Well, not going over there to it, but they landed you out a ways on a landing craft.
Okay.
You had to go to the
So you're on a transport ship to cross the channel, and then they put you into a landing craft.
One of them things that drop down.
Okay. So there's different kinds of landing craft. Now there's the one, the LCVP or the Higgins boats, and that's the small landing craft that can hold a few dozen men with a door that goes down in the front. And then there's a little bit bigger one that could carry a couple of vehicles. So when you landed, was it just
the troops?
Just the troops, so no vehicles with you for that. Okay, yes, you're probably in a little one. So, you know, in the books and movies and stuff about D-Day, one of the things that they mention is that the original plan was to land on June 5th, and they were getting ready to do that, and then they stopped. And then they went and landed on June 6th. Now, were you caught up in that? Do you remember a false start or having to spend a lot of extra time on the boat? Or okay, so for you it was just load on the ship on June 5th and go over and land on the 6th. Okay, all right. So that morning, what do you remember about D-Day before you landed?
What do I remember?
Yeah.
I remember I'm never going to come back. That's all I could think about. About it.
Okay, and do you remember the naval ships bombarding the shore, or?
Oh, no, that was unreal. You know, well, see what happens is when they made the, you probably know this, is that they went in on high tide as far as they could, and they run the ships up on shore. And when was it high tide or low tide? Low tide, I guess they went in. They'd run the ships up on shore to where they were stuck there. And then when the tide came out, well, then they could back out.
Okay, but I was asking about the naval bombardment. There were battleships and cruisers and things out there. Did you hear that or see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know all of them.
All right. And which beach were you landing on? Were you in Omaha or Utah?
Omaha.
Okay, so you're landing on Omaha. So there's a big bombardment there. And then, do you remember aircraft going over or things?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember the aircraft going, a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because they were doing bombing and they were doing bombardment and all of that. Now, how do they get you onto the landing craft?
And the airplane,
How do they get you onto the landing craft?
over the side of the ship,
Okay,
on these rope ladders, you won't go down into the landing craft.
okay. And was that tricky to do?
Yeah.
Why was that?
Well, that's because it's shaking all over and it's rope. You know, rope is it's not very steady.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Had you practiced this at all? So this is your first time trying to get into a landing craft.
Yeah.
All right. And the sea was fairly rough that morning, or I think it was. There was some bouncing up and down. All right. Now, did any of the guys fall into the water or get hurt going in?
I don't remember any of them.
Okay. And do you remember how big a pack you had?
What?
How big a pack you had? How many pounds were you carrying?
I think a pack is 60 pounds.
Okay. All right. So you're loaded with a pack.
That's your whole caboodle.
Mhm.
If you ain't got that, well, you got nothing.
Okay. All right. So you get into the landing craft, and then basically, once you're in the landing craft, what happens?
Well, they dropped you down and you went up on the beach there if you could get there.
Okay.
And you hide behind those steel things that they had stuff in the ground for the tanks getting to get through.
Okay. So as you were going in, were the Germans shooting at you at that point?
Yeah. Well,
Okay. Did you know if any of the landing craft around you got hit?
oh yeah, the invasion of Normandy was, I think, is the bloodiest battle of all.
It may have been certainly in the European theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was, in fact, I don't think but 10 of the first wave got in.
Mm-hmm.
10, I don't know how many hundreds there was, but I don't think 10 of them made it.
Yeah, so they're getting shot up in front of you, and then how much when your landing craft opened up and let you out? Do you remember how deep the water was there?
Next year.
Okay, about neck deep. Okay, and then once you got in the water, so you kind of waded forward, and then you kind of hid behind one of the German beach obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now were the Germans shooting at you at that point?
Betcha.
Okay, so how long did you stay hiding behind an obstacle?
As long as I could.
Okay, so what led you to move forward?
Well, they'd move you forward, whether you wanted to go or not. John Wayne would stand up there and do,
Okay, so you got
yeah, John Wayne.
officers or sergeants or somebody in there trying to.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so when you move forward onto the beach, do you remember at all what that was like? I mean, was there? They talked about a shingle, a bunch of small stones and things like that, and then beach, and then there was a seawall in some places beyond that. Do you remember any of that?
Oh, yeah, I remember it all, but I don't know what it's called.
Okay.
What they're called, but and it's it's getting pretty fuzzy out now.
Sure.
It's a long time ago to remember all that crap.
Okay.
But
Yeah, but do you think that once they told you to move forward, you kind of went all the way across the beach in one move, or did you do it in pieces?
we done it whenever you could move.
Okay.
Well, when they said move, well, everybody had to move up some.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
All right. And then, how did you wind up getting off the beach?
How did mine get?
How did you get off the beach?
We got off on the landing craft.
No, from the beach.
From the they fought their way off the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And the first town we hit was St. Mary Police.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first town in France that we.
Yeah, but that's over by Utah Beach,
Mm-hmm.
so that's a different place. There were villages at Omaha Beach. There's a big bluff that you have to go up, and then there's villages behind that. So basically, you follow the combat troops up. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they weren't expecting you to kind of shoot your way up or anything. Okay. All right.
You were pretty much on your own to save your own neck.
Mm-hmm.
You did what you had to save your own neck.
Right. Okay. Now, when you kind of once you got off the beach, did your unit kind of pull itself together?
Somewhat.
And do you remember kind of how you spent the first night?
How do I remember how I spent the first night?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I sure do. Had a little spot where we dug a hole, dug a, what they call a foxhole, probably about that deep, and stay in that, sleep in that for the night. And rained, and I woke up, we were swimming in that dang mud hole.
All right. And then did things start to get organized the next day?
Well, everything was soaking wet, and I made up my mind. I says, I ain't gonna do this again. I ain't gonna sleep all that dang mud hole. I'm gonna find me a place where there's shelters somehow.
Okay.
And there was a couple of us that we didn't really give a dang for nothing. And we'd go somewhere, not where we were supposed to, but get out of that, some of that weather.
Okay. So did you find a house that was still standing? Or?
Barn, maybe.
Okay.
Arm's barn or something like that.
All right. And then how long were you kind of on your own like that?
Well, you went pretty much through the whole war like that. You be with your unit, but when, well, let's just give you an answer. Let's say what we come in a town like Harrisburg. Okay. Now you gotta take that town or you have to leave it for the Germans. So if it was bad weather, we'd say, well, let's take this town. And they'd take the town and you'd have a place to stay. It wouldn't be cleared, you know, because there'd still be Germans around in there, but that's where you stayed, in them places like that.
Okay.
Stayed in some pretty fancy houses over there.
All right.
I don't want to tell you what we did in them houses.
Okay. All right. Now, but you said, but your unit though does. I mean, you are an evacuation hospital. I mean, you have a unit and it does get itself set up. So basically, does the hospital get set up there, inland from the beach a little ways?
Well, I wasn't with the hospital very much. I might have been with the 82nd Airborne for a couple of weeks, or I might have been with the 2nd Tank Division for a couple of weeks. Where they needed a corpsman,
Okay.
that's where I would go. So
All right. So
I don't really know too much about the hospital itself.
okay. So now you're working basically as a corpsman. Now, corpsman, did you get any kind of first aid training or anything?
You got your training right on the job training.
Okay. So you were assigned to the hospital, and somebody just said, "Okay, you're a corpsman now."
Well, yeah, I don't know how they give you their name, but they say I don't know. They just said, well, you go and help the guy that's wounded if you can. Do what you can do.
Okay.
And I'm sure we did a lot of things wrong, but I did some right too.
Okay. So basically, you had mentioned when we were talking about things like that, basically you were assigned to the First Army and you kind of went and served with different units in the First Army. Yeah. So you mentioned the 82nd Airborne, and the 82nd Airborne was over at St. Marigles. So is that one of the places that you went to?
No, we didn't get no training or anything. Just,
no, but it would be going in to help people.
Oh yeah, we could. Yeah.
All right. And so in that Normandy area, then, where do you remember the larger towns or places that you went through?
The larger towns were the only ones I can remember really. There was some little towns where we stayed overnight in, but I don't remember what the names of them were.
Okay. But you got to Cherbourg? You went to Cherbourg?
Oh yeah.
All right. Now, were you with the units that were actually attacking that town? So were you, because we had to attack, Cherbourg took a while to capture. So were you with the units that were doing the attacking, or were you in the rear someplace?
Well, I don't remember what we were doing, what we did in Cherbourg.
Okay.
I know that it's hard for me to remember because it was all over like crap. You know, you didn't know what you were going to be doing. And Cherbourg has some great big tunnels, you know, where they were dug in and mountains there in Cherbourg.
Right.
So, actually, you did just about what you had to do. You did what you had to do to survive. Let me put it that way.
All right. Now you're talking about being a corpsman. So were you basically treating casualties, or were you working in aid stations? Okay.
He was right out with them where they were wounded, You bandaged them up the best you could, or you did what you could to them and sent them back to the hospital.
Okay. Now, were you in aid stations, or were you actually up front with the troops?
I was up front with the troops.
Okay. Did you carry a weapon?
Yeah, but I didn't supposed to.
Okay. What kind of weapon did you have?
I had in fact, Dan has still got it. It was a 38. It was a pistol made for the officers in Germany from Belgium.
Okay.
It was a Browning 38. It was a beautiful gun.
Okay. So you had a sidearm, but you weren't carrying an M1 or a carbine or anything like that. Okay. All right.
We weren't allowed to carry a gun. We
All
weren't
right.
supposed to anyway.
Okay.
We weren't allowed to do a lot of things we did, but
All right. So did you come under fire yourself?
yeah.
Okay. And do you remember the first time that happened, or what that was like?
The first time it happened was the invasion of France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the Germans shooting at you while you're still on the boat. So yeah, I guess that's happening there. Did you get used to it?
Did you get used to it?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Never get used to it. You never get used to somebody shooting at you.
All right. Were there things that you learned in terms of how to keep yourself safe, or?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
You learn fast.
Okay. So what kinds of things would you do in a combat situation?
Hide behind anything you could. Find.
Okay. Now, would you, as a corpsman or a medic, did you have to kind of go out under fire to help bring casualties back?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you ever get hit yourself? Okay.
No, lucky. I don't know why, but never did.
All right. Now, were there any other corpsmen that you normally worked with?
Oh yeah. You weren't alone. You couldn't take care of them all. You couldn't take care of them as it was, but there was probably maybe 3 or 4 of them to a unit. I think it's about 20 guys in a unit.
Okay.
That's where you're stuck with them guys.
All right. And did those guys get hit? And did you lose a lot of your friends that way, or did most of them get through?
I don't think it was the first bunch of guys. You know, they said don't make friends with anybody. Don't be friendly with anybody, because here today and gone tomorrow. But yeah, they were. I don't think in the first group of guys I was with, I don't think any of them made it. Made it through the war.
Right. Okay. Now, do you remember anything about what the countryside in Normandy looked like?
In Normandy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about like it is here, only there was a lot of hedgerows in there. You know, that's where them hedgerows were dangerous places.
Okay. And can you describe what a hedgerow looked like?
Well, it was like a bunch of trees, probably, maybe 50 foot wide. Well, they had the tanks in there, a lot of them, so they were pretty good size. And then there'd be an open field. Now, when they made the invasion there, the Germans had, in these open fields, they had posts in the ground. They go maybe 10 foot high or so, 12 foot high. And that's where the gliders tried to land. And I don't think one of them gliders ever made it without crashing.
Well, some of the gliders made it, but a lot of them were damaged that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they had that, and then because you could basically eat the hedgerows surrounding all these fields, that kind of made each field its own little individual fortress, and people had to feel that we had to fight our way through that, and that generated a lot of casualties.
Yes, it did.
Okay. Now,
Go ahead.
and so you're moving around kind of from place to place while the fighting is going on in the hedgerow country and so forth. One of the big things that happened was that to break out of the hedgerow country, the Americans launched a gigantic air attack near St. Lo. The idea was to carpet bomb the whole area and bring in all these heavy bombers. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, St. Lo was a town probably as big as Muskegon or bigger. And the St. Lo was just flattened right. I don't think there was a building standing in there. But, you know, there when the bomb, back then, when they bombed, I would say that a good 30% of them just fell helplessly in open fields.
Mm-hmm.
But now they can put a bomb down the chimney of a house.
Right.
So that makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, they did not have smart bombs.
Yeah.
And then the first carpet bombing attempt actually landed on American troops and killed some of them. The second, but do you remember seeing or hearing those bombing raids?
Remember hearing them?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they had what they call Screaming Mimi. That was an anti-personnel bomb that suffered screaming like crazy as it was dropping.
All right. Okay. And so you passed through St. Lo after it was liberated. So you saw it yourself?
Did I what?
Did you see St. Lo after the bombing?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you went through there. All right.
In fact, I was there when they were bombing. That's where I almost got killed.
How was that?
Well, they shot it. We was out in the field. We was camped out in the field there. This plane come in, it was being shot down, a German plane, and that plane hit the ground. Well, the pilot jumped out and he soaked himself. Well, it was that deep in the ground, but when that plane hit the ground, one of the engines came loose, and it skidded over. I don't know how far. It came probably about a Guinness far from me.
Okay.
From me.
So it landed 6 or 8 feet away from you. Okay. That's a pretty close call. Did the German pilot survive?
No.
I think so. He made that much of a pit in the ground, probably not. Okay.
Well, the ground was soft, and he was just about flat with the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. And then after St. Lo and after that bombing, then the Americans start to break out of the Bocage country. They start to get out into more open country, and then they kind of drive across France. Now, in that part, do you remember? Did you go through Paris or did you go around Paris?
No, we went right through it.
Okay. And did you get to stop there or did you just?
Yeah, we stayed overnight there.
Okay.
That's not all you stayed anywhere is overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Paris is probably one of the easiest places to take. Cherbourg was bad.
Mm-hmm.
St. Louis was bad. Paris is pretty easy.
Well, the Germans didn't
considering.
Yeah. Well, the Germans didn't really defend it the way they defended those places. There wasn't a big battle there. It was a fairly quick battle.
Right.
But
that was kind of more of a show off place.
Yeah.
Paris.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now was and did you see now as you're moving through France at this point? Do you see much of the civilian population?
In France?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And how did they treat you, or what impression did you have of them?
We always had good relations. They get to know them, for a day or so.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them would invite you over for dinner or something to eat. They didn't have much to eat, but they'd invite you over.
Mm-hmm.
They were friendly.
Okay.
And so were the German people after they were freed.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have no problem with them.
Okay. All right. So, you're moving across France, and the first army kind of pushes kind of up into Belgium, kind of next, and eventually that will get into the Battle of the Bulge. Now, but they were also fighting along the German frontiers, and some of the First Army units captured the city of Aachen, and there was fighting in the Hürtgen Forest in the fall. Were you supporting any of those operations?
Well, when the Battle of the Bulge first started, I was in Aachen, Germany. We were in Aachen, Germany already. Okay. And when that started, well, then they yanked us right back over there. Mm-hmm. Because they said that, this was hearsay, but they said that they wanted to give Hitler Antwerp,
well, that was what, Antwerp, that was his target, yeah.
Yeah, to give him that for a Christmas present.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but I guess before the Battle of the Bulge started, were you working with units that were fighting in the Hürtgen Forest or at Aachen, or were you in the rear somewhere?
Before it started, we was over in Aachen, Germany, which was right, there's something I never heard much, you never hear much about is the Z3 line.
Mm-hmm.
You never hear nothing on the movies and that about that. And, that was supposed to be one of the hard things, but it wasn't. That was one of the easiest places to go.
Okay.
But,
well, there was a lot of very hard fighting at Aachen before you got there, I think.
Yeah.
And then south of Aachen in the Hürtgen Forest, there were some very, very costly battles, and that was in the Siegfried Line, and that was pretty hard. But I guess but did you have periods there where you were, where you were not treating a lot of casualties, or were you always pretty busy?
Well, there was always quite a few casualties. In that way, there was always some.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But for you, the big thing really then was the Battle of the Bulge. Okay.
I don't think as many troops lost there as there was the invasion.
Yeah. Yeah, not all at once probably. Okay. But so did you move south from Aachen when the Battle of the Bulge started?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you remember what the mood was like? I mean, were there rumors that the Germans were breaking through and?
Well, there wasn't rumors. We knew they were breaking through.
Mm-hmm.
We went up to a little town called Normandy.
Okay.
That's where we stopped at,
Mm-hmm.
Normandy. I don't call it the Battle of the Bulge, I call it the Battle of Normandy.
Okay. And Normandy is famous as a place where the Germans massacred a bunch of American prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did that happen before or after you were there?
Oh boy.
Because they captured it and then we pushed them back out again.
That's something I don't remember.
Okay. Now, at the time of the Battle of the Bulge, did you move around a lot or kind of mostly stay?
Well, at that time, no, because they had us surrounded.
Okay.
We couldn't move.
Okay, so that
was horrible cold.
okay.
That was terrible.
All right. Well, that area that's around the town of Saint Vith or Saint Vith, and that was almost totally surrounded, and so and then we eventually got out of there. But basically, so you think of that? But you think that was probably fairly early in the Battle of the Bulge, still in December?
I don't know. I don't remember.
All right.
I just, there's so many things that happen. Hard to keep them all stored up this long.
Sure. Now, at that point, did you have? You talk about how cold it was.
Yeah.
Did you have shelter at night? Did you find houses to stay in?
No. Crawled under a tank.
Okay.
Keep warm.
All right.
See, they couldn't shut some tanks off because it's so cold they couldn't start them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could find a tank, well, you crawled under that. Try to keep warm.
All right. Yeah. So you're up there with the combat units at this
Yeah.
point. Yeah, doing that. Okay. And do you have a sense of how long you had to camp out like that?
Seemed like it was out during the whole war outside it,
Mm-hmm.
in the mud and the rain and that. We weren't inside a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's the funny thing. I was over there that 2 years and I never had a cold. Never had a cold.
You didn't get sick. Okay.
No.
All right. Now, as the Battle of the Bulge progresses, we start attacking again and moving forward. And then, how long? Now, then, basically, did you stay in the field long enough to kind of get into Germany, or did you just leave from Belgium, or?
I don't remember how we got.
Okay. I guess because when we were going over your itinerary, you said that you left the army you left in January of '45. Is that right, or was it January '46 when you went out?
I think that's right.
Okay. So was the war still going on when you left?
When I left?
Yeah.
No, it was pretty much over.
Okay. So the Germans had surrendered by the time you. Okay. So you probably January '46, not '45. Okay. All right. So after the Battle of the Bulge, then we start pushing into Germany. Okay. Now, is that when you kind of cross the Siegfried Line?
No, we crossed the Siegfried Line. I don't remember when.
That was back in the fall.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that part, because there was a part that we kind of got into at that point.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But then after the Bulge, the Americans started advancing, and they advanced toward the Rhine River, and then eventually across the Rhine River.
When I went across the Rhine River, I crossed the Rhine River when they was going through there.
Okay.
And we did get into Berlin. I did get into Berlin.
Okay.
They kind of held us back.
Right.
I don't know why they wanted the Russians to take over.
Right.
For some reason or other, I don't know why anymore, but
Okay, so let's back up here. I'm going to try to put together your story as best we can, kind of step by step. So the Battle of the Bulge is basically over in January, but the Americans keep attacking and pushing forward. Now, after the Bulge, did the fighting get any easier?
Yeah, it lightened up a lot. Wasn't bad. Well, it wasn't good, but I mean, it was not like up to that. All the time was somebody shooting at you. Well,
Okay.
you might go into a town and they made you nobody there.
All right. And then, do you remember, you crossed the Rhine River. Do you know where you crossed it? Were you at Remagen or were you somewhere else?
I don't, you know, it's a funny thing. We built it right on the Rhine just before we crossed it. We stayed in a Catholic monastery, would it be?
Yeah.
On what was on the Rhine. The nurses took care of us.
Okay.
The nuns.
Nuns, yeah. All right.
That was something else.
Okay, so that's one place where you did get to stay indoors at least a little while.
Yeah.
All right. And then when you crossed the Rhine, was that in boats or over a bridge or?
We went over a bridge. The engineers had a bridge across there.
Okay. And then once you got to the other side, were the units you were with, were they getting into much combat or were you just mostly?
Not much. It kind of spattered.
Okay. And what kind of countryside were you moving through then?
Well, you know, it's not much different than it is right here.
So
I
you
mean, basically, well, the buildings are different, and the countryside in certain spots are just like you go to the Grand Canyon, and that's different than it is here.
Yeah.
Well, basically, that's the same thing over there.
But was this kind of farming country in small towns?
A lot of it's farming country, yeah, small farms.
All right.
Nothing like they got around here.
All right. And then at that point, would you borrow a farmhouse to sleep in overnight, or did you mostly still stay outside?
We've done that. We do that too. Yeah.
Okay. And did they give you any orders about how to deal with the civilians? Or did they tell you not to fraternize?
Oh yeah, you weren't supposed to fraternize. I don't even know what that word meant.
Well, you're not supposed to talk to them, let alone anything else. But, I don't know. But did you see much of the German civilians, or did they just get out of your way?
German civilians? Oh yeah. Yeah. That black beer they got over there, the women that used to drink that nurse their babies with.
All right. So you're seeing this ordinary German civilians.
Actually, if you didn't know it, you wouldn't know a German from an American. And same with France and that too. You know, the people are just about the same.
Okay.
You know, I don't think they like war no more than you did.
All right. And do you have a sense of where you were in Germany when the Germans surrendered? Were you kind of southern part of Germany or farther north, or don't really know? Were there any cities around?
I think we was went back to Normandy.
Okay.
When they I think that's where we went back there and stayed when they surrendered.
All right. And was that where your hospital was based, or?
We were just staying there.
Or just, okay. All right. Now, after the war then, now we have an army of occupation in Germany. Now, was that when you were able to go to Berlin?
Yeah, you could go there. There Berlin and Frankfurt, or Frankfurt, and then places we went to all that. I even seen that castle up on the hill there, what he had. Well, that was a complex.
Yeah, that's the one that they've copied in Grand Rapids. Neuschwanstein, yeah. Okay, so when you went to Berlin, what did you see there? What did it look like? Was it bombed out, or?
No, it wasn't hardly touched. You mean that hill, that big cut?
No, Berlin.
Oh, Berlin? Well, I didn't get to see much of it because they didn't want us in there.
Okay.
I say I was there and I was out, just about passing through is about all I've seen of Berlin.
All right. And was this just something that you were doing on your own because you had a pass,
I don't know.
Or were you sent there for some reason?
They were sending us to Czechoslovakia. I think it was Czechoslovakia, to go to some hospital there. I think it was Czechoslovakia.
Well, we were in Czechoslovakia for a while, and we had to
well,
leave.
they sent us down there to a hospital for some reason or other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when we got lost and got into Berlin.
Well, they're a little bit far apart, but
Yeah.
you know, you might have got, okay. Anyway, so basically, you're still moving around, and were you just being sent different places still because they need medical personnel in different places?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And after the Germans surrendered, did they allow you to socialize with the Germans, or?
You weren't supposed to, but they did.
Mm-hmm.
They did.
Okay. And when you're going around Germany in different places, did you see any of the prison camps or concentration camps or things like that?
Yeah, I seen that Buchenwald.
Okay.
We freed that one.
Mm-hmm.
I say we, they freed it. I was with the outfit that freed it.
Okay. All right.
That was terrible. Them people, them people were nothing but skin and bones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their bones were just covered with skin. Terrible.
Yeah.
You know, they couldn't even feed them when they had to just give them a little petite or else they died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
their bodies couldn't handle the food at
Yeah.
that point. All right, so you
That
saw
was horrible.
And then did you see or notice any of the displaced persons? Are there a lot of people wandering around on the roads or that kind of thing?
They just kind of lost, like.
Mm-hmm.
I guess at Auschwitz, that was the worst one.
Well, that was the worst camp. That was over in Poland, so you wouldn't have gotten over there.
Yeah.
But the Germans also used a lot of people as slave laborers, and then
I
they
didn't
gave
see
people-
that, but I heard that was worse than Buchenwald.
Yeah, yeah, because Buchenwald didn't have the big gas chamber complex that Auschwitz did.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, didn't that guy who run that Auschwitz? Didn't he live in the United States for quite a while?
Well, he was the one who came out of no. The commander of Auschwitz was actually captured after the war and put on trial. The famous one was Adolf Eichmann, who was one of the architects of the Holocaust, and he wound up in Argentina, and the Israelis kidnapped him in the early 60s and brought him back for trial. But yeah, some of them did go off in different places and do things like that. But anyway, but you did see some of the camps or what was going on there, that kind of thing too. All right. Now, after the war was over, did they give you passes or allow you to travel around Europe on your
Well,
own?
you go anywhere you wanted to.
Okay.
If you had if you wanted to go, well, you had to hitchhike an army vehicle or no way you could get around.
Okay. So did you do any of that kind of traveling?
Did
Did you travel around yourself?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We stole a little car from the Germans. It was a nice little car. It was a little Ford.
Mm-hmm.
And we just run the wheels off of that. We had to steal gas to keep it going, but
So did you just drive around Germany, or did you?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Now, as you kind of think about the time that you spent, when you think back the time that you spent in Germany or in France or Belgium before that, are there other particular memories that stand out for you that we haven't talked about yet?
not really. I mean, nothing real outstanding. It was pretty much the same old grind all the time.
Okay.
After the war, well, there wasn't a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, wait to go home.
Right. Okay.
That was a long wait.
All right. So when the time comes for you to go home, and I guess this is not going to be the early 1946, how do they get you home?
Well, they put us in a little camp, and then they took us by truck to somewhere. What was the name of that town? It was in France.
Le Havre? A lot of the big
Le
camps.
Havre?
Le Havre, yeah, or Le Havre as they might call it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and they had big camps there that were named after cigarettes
Yeah.
that you stayed in and waited to get a boat to go over. Okay.
Yeah.
So you did that. And then what was the trip back home like?
Horrible. Running into a storm coming home. And we came home on what they call a victory ship,
Mm-hmm.
and they're a small ship.
Yeah.
And the waves were so big, but they couldn't go into them. They had to ride them out.
Mm-hmm.
And I ain't kidding you. I bet you them waves were 50 foot high or more.
That could
Because
happen.
when you were in the bottom of them, you had to look up like that to see the top of them.
All right. And how long did the storm last?
Seemed like it lasted all the way home.
Okay. So, and how many days did it take to get
I
home?
think it's 7 days and 7 nights or 7 days. I don't know.
That's about right for that kind of ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then where did you land when you got home?
Newark, New Jersey, same place it took off from.
Okay. All right. And then did they discharge you right there?
No, I
Okay.
went to Illinois, Camp Grant, Illinois. No, not Camp Grant.
Or Fort Sheridan?
Huh?
Fort Sheridan? That's north of Chicago? Because a lot of guys got discharged
I
there.
think it was, maybe.
Yeah.
That's where I got discharged in.
All right. And then what did you do after you got home?
But I looked for a job.
Okay. And what kind of work did you wind up doing?
When I got, huh?
What kind of job did you get?
Well, I kind of drifted around for a while. I dug graves in the Spring Lake Cemetery,
Mm-hmm.
and I done something else. I worked at some little factory that made stoves, and they put the porcelain on stoves and refrigerators and that. And then I worked at it was Keller Tool Company. I worked there for a little while, and then I quit and got into Story and Clark, and that's where I spent the rest of my working days, just about the rest of them.
All right. Well, let's see. This tape is about done. I think we've kind of gotten about to the end of the story. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to share the story today.
I probably wasn't much help.
Oh, sure. Go for it. If you always let the